understand why the show has me in kind of a chokehold, because I don't even really like the premise to begin with. Belly, no matter how nice we try to be about it, she's ping-ponging between the brothers. And we're at the point in the story now where it's like, oh, you know, let's give poor Jer a shot. Basically, when Belly's with Conrad, she's all in. She's not thinking about anyone else, let alone Jer. But whenever she's with Jer, Conrad is always on the back of her mind. So we know where the story's going. And if you see in season 3's trailer, which by the way looks really good, we know where this is going. Still, I'm really curious to see how Belly and Jer's relationship turns out in season 3, at least in the beginning, I guess, because from what I've seen of their romance so far, it's very young best friends who are attracted to each other and may love each other, but romance, I don't know. So I'm curious. So I kind of felt like season 2 was a little bit boring and there was quite a bit of filler, but we did get good Taylor and Steven storylines this time around. It was really nice to see some character growth and development for those two. Like season 3 is coming out in a couple of weeks, and if you've forgotten what happened in season 2, well, I'm here to do the recap. Anyway, onto the video. So episode 1 has 3 timelines. We have the present, where Belly is no longer in contact with either of the brothers and Susanna has died. Everybody's still dealing with the grief of losing her and the fallout of some incident that happened around that time. We get the first past, which is like way in the past. That's summer when Conrad and Belly first got together. Then we get like the recent past, which is kind of like in the middle when they'd broken things off. They'd agreed to be friends. Yeah, right. And yeah, we see how that plays out. So, in the present day, Belly is back in school and she's reminiscing about a memory of them walking on the beach at some point during the summer. They're being all cute and flirty, and Belly tells Conrad that Jer told her that he has feelings for her and she kissed him a few times. Conrad takes it surprisingly well because, well, he knows that he did push Belly away, and that is kind of complicated. He apologizes for shutting her out all summer, and, you know, I used to be so annoyed with Belly's antics with these boys, but like, think about it. If you're a teenage girl, the hot broody brother, the one that you want and who kind of wants you, has been rejecting you, but the other cute fun one is giving you all the attention. So I mean, like, what do you do? Like, she's a teenager, I'll allow it. Anyway, Conrad asks if she wants to be with Jer, and she says, no, I've pretty much liked you since forever. He tells her then that she's it for him. And that's the thing with these broody types. The minute they open up and they admit they're in love, they're all in, all serious like. So they decide to talk to Jer first and tell him that they're together, and Betty says that she owes it to Jer to talk to him. By the way, Conrad is kind of joking and he's smiling, which is really nice to see, because throughout the season he was kind of going through it and there's still more hardship coming down the pike. So when they get home together, Susanna is like, I knew it. And you know, like, the boy's mom always secretly, not so secretly, shipped Belly and Conrad, which I think was a little bit meddling of her, but sure. Belly goes to Jer's room to tell him what's happening with Conrad, but before she can say anything, well, he's under the impression that, like, he and Belly are together and they should tell Conrad, just so that there aren't any secrets. Anyway, Belly comes out with it then. Like, she says that she kissed Conrad last night, and Jer rightly guesses that he's just the spare in the situation. It was always going to be Conrad. He's like, so I was a distraction for you while you waited for Conrad? Get out. Later, she and Conrad are on the beach talking, and she's really shaken just by how upset Jer was, and she tells Conrad that they should hit pause. The brothers need to be there for each other and their mom as well, and she doesn't want to get in the middle of things. Belly girl, you're already in the middle, but I see what she's trying to do here. Shame, I do think that they'd been together for like a day at most, and I kind of wonder, are we ever going to see a full proper relationship play out on the show for at least like an episode without any shenanigans? Anyway, Conrad tells her that no matter what happens, they'll be infinite, and he gives her the infinity necklace. Belly seems to know that Susanna might not be long for the world, because she wonders what will happen to the summer house if they don't have Susanna anymore. Susanna tells Belly that if anyone can keep the magic going at the summer house after she's gone, it'll be Belly. So now, remember, Belly and Conrad agreed to take a break? Well, summer is over now, and we're in the kind of middle-ish timeline. When Conrad is off at uni at Brown, he and Belly start talking on the phone, and it becomes kind of a regular thing. They talk to each other, they keep each other company while they're doing their chores. They become comfortable with one another, they really open up, and they kind of lose track of time, talking on the phone for hours. In the present day, Stephen is going to Princeton. He's also valedictorian, so he gives the speech at graduation, but Belly's grades have been slipping for a while. She's no longer captain of the volleyball team either. Things aren't going well. I mean, everybody's going through it. It's difficult right now. Belly's mom, Laurel, wrote a book about Susanna, and she's still really struggling to process her grief otherwise. She says she doesn't even want to promote this book that she wrote in a fugue state. Belly tries to move on, so she chats up one of her classmates, Corey, who she maybe has some vibes with. I want to call him the John Ambrose McLaren character, but no, but that's actually John Ambrose slander. I think that Jer is kind of the John Ambrose of the situation. Anyway, she goes and she sits next to the guy, and at this time she has something in her hair, so he leans forward, meaning to take it out, but she thinks that he's leaning in for a kiss. He's not. Like, he's not even into her. He pulls a Toby from the duff and he asks her, Belly, to actually put in a good word with one of her friends. I think he means Taylor. Ugh. Oh well, anyway, that was fast. Good riddance. Of course, we couldn't have Belly be with an actual normal good guy because those spaces, both of them, are reserved. So the relationship between Belly and Stephen is quite strained as well. Something happened with Belly and the brothers that have caused them to also avoid Stephen, who were his friends too. They have this big blowout at a party and Belly decides to go home. She drives home as Olivia Rodrigo's driver's license plate. Seriously though, doesn't this whole show just feel like an Olivia Rodrigo song somehow, or maybe a Taylor Swift song? Since they play every 2 seconds. She remembers a time then when Conrad came to visit her and he told her in this memory that he will never forget her, and then they kiss. So this is that middle timeline after they got really close during all those phone calls. Yeah, that eventually leads them into getting back together. So back in the present, Belly is sad in her room after the fight with Stephen, and she calls Jer, who's like, "Are you with Conrad?" And Belly's like, "Why would I be with Conrad?" So apparently Conrad took off and Jer's like, "I'm going to go find him." Betty tells Jer that she's coming with him. In episode 2, we get a flashback to Conrad coming to pick Belly up in a Range Rover, mind you, around Christmas time. On this drive, he tells her that he's changing his major to biology and he wants to get into pre-med. So they're officially dating at this point. They end up driving to the summer house in Cousins and they're drinking hot chocolate because remember, it's winter. And there's this, that good tension. When you're about to kiss somebody, but you're still kind of shy. It hasn't happened yet, but it's going to happen. Well, yeah. And then Billy's like, "Oh my goodness, it's snowing." So they run out onto the beach in the snow. They're all happy and frolicking about. For some reason, a Taylor Swift song plays and it's not snow on the beach, which, are you kidding me? Anyway, they go back to the house, all cozy by the fireplace, and then they have sex. It's Belly's first time and it's really sweet, actually. Back to the present day, Belly texts Taylor to tell her that she's going to look for Conrad, who is missing. Jer is still trying to track him down. He's calling all of his friends, but nobody's heard from him. Belly gets to Brown on the bus and she's bought coffee for the two of them, but Jer's like, "You know what, I'm good, thanks." So she just bins both of them. So now remember, things are really frosty between the two of them. Jer is surprised that Belly hadn't previously visited Conrad at Brown. She hasn't even been to his room, but they eventually do find it. Conrad's roommate says that he hasn't seen Conrad since last Thursday and he'd had an intense phone conversation with somebody before he took off. And then the roommate's like, "Oh wait, you're Belly? Conrad was looking at a photo of you a lot after you guys broke up. He was super depressed." And you know how Belly is. She's like, "I'm sure Conrad doesn't care about me," or whatever. So they find out that Conrad is in Cousins and Belly offers to go with Jer. He says no, but she knows that he's bluffing and that he actually needs her there. So she goes anyway. Oh boy, we're about to get an awkward car ride, aren't we? I mean, we kind of do. She tells him that she and Conrad haven't spoken since Susanna's funeral, and then they suddenly get a flat tire. Jer wants to wait for roadside assistance, but Belly knows how to change a tire, and so she coaches him through it a little bit, but he has this little meltdown. He can't do it, he's emotional, and the stress about Conrad being missing or whatever. So he finally says, he comes out with it, and he's like, "You know what, I'm pissed about last summer. We were best friends, and then we hooked up, and then you went and you hooked up with my brother, and now everybody just expects me to be normal." And Belly tells him that she's missed him and she didn't want to hurt him, and she should have been there for Jer too when Savannah got sick, and she really hates that she let him down. They kind of let it all out. He cries, she cries, and they hold each other, and they're kind of working their way to reconnecting and becoming friends again. They're going to be fine. Stephen and Taylor have an awkward run-in, and at first she lies and she tries to cover for Belly, but Stephen finds out that they're not actually together, Taylor and Belly. And she eventually comes out and says that she's gone to find Conrad and she's kind of figuring things out and just to kind of leave her be. Belly and Jer get to the house and Conrad is not happy to see her there. She's also shocked to discover that the house is actually for sale. So we find out that the boy's aunt Susanna is planning on selling the house. Conrad had come to Cousins to try and stop the sale of the house. This aunt, by the way, didn't even come to Susanna's funeral, so she basically just wants her money and she's gonna dip, pretty much. Jer thanks Belly for being there, and he says he's glad that he doesn't have to do this alone, and you should see the look that he gives her. He is so still in love with her. I mean, both of them are. Stephen decides to call Taylor and says that they should go to Cousins together. And it looks like something is brewing between these two. Like, she has a boyfriend right now, but remember they did kiss last summer, so yeah, we're gonna have to keep an eye on that. In the middle timeline where Belly and Conrad are officially dating, they go to her prom together. This is really bad timing because Susanna's health is like taking a turn for the worst, and he's just not excited about going to begin with, but you can tell that he's going because he loves Belly. He's doing it for her, but he forgets her corsage, and he's a little bit distant as well because, you know, of Susanna. And Belly tells us then she didn't know it at the time, but this is when she started. Ugh, I felt so bad for him here because he was trying so hard for her and he was just really struggling, especially when he felt like he needed to perform normalcy and happiness around other people, you know? So the prom night ends up being a nightmare for both of them. Belly understands that he's not going to be this happy, perfect, fun, romantic date, so she tries to go easy on him, but it's still her date and she wants to dance, and maybe she thinks, you know, she can kind of cheer him up a bit, I guess. I don't know. But Conrad, he tries really hard, but he can't do it anymore, and he walks out. Belly then, when they're outside, she's like, she knows that this is the end, and she says that it's over, and she gives him back the infinity necklace, and she walks away. In the present day, Belly and Jer go and see Aunt Julia, the aunt that's trying to sell the house, and they think that they maybe can try to get through to her and make her understand just what the house means to them. But Aunt Julia's all business and she doesn't want to hear it. She's like, it's not personal. The boys agree then that they're going to use their trusts to buy the house. And it's a pity that Savannah, like, she planned a lot of things. Like, she planned Stephen's graduation gifts, but I guess it slipped her mind about the house or to put it in the boys' names. But I feel like it wasn't hers to give away anyway. Anyway, this trust money plan ends up being a dud because the boys' dad says no, he's not going to give the boys money that's meant for their future to buy this house. So back in the past then, to Savannah's funeral, I skipped all of it because, too close to home for now. Anyway, later at the house, Belly walks in on Conrad and Audrey. Conrad's head is in her lap and he looks like he's crying and she's comforting him. It's totally innocent, but of course Belly is hurt because Conrad never came to her looking for comfort, I guess. Anyway, they have this little argument and Conrad says that he knew it. He knew that it was a bad idea to start something with her. Belly ends up unintentionally causing a scene in front of everybody, getting emotional, and, you know, we're going to give her a break because she's going through a lot and sometimes your emotions just get the best of you, but yeah, it's not good. In the present, Taylor and Stephen arrive at the house and the gang settles in for the night to watch a movie, but just then Conrad gets a text that causes him to run out having a panic attack. In episode 4, the message was that Conrad, there's a place for him at Stanford, but he doesn't want to take this place because he thinks that a transfer right now, when things are just getting better with Jer and with everything going on, isn't a good idea. For the rest of the episode, like, I get that the point is to show that the group is getting close again and they're bonding, but they basically hang out and play games at this mall boardwalk kind of thing, and it's very, very boring. Cam Cameron is there, so yeah, there's that. Like, everybody that Belly kissed is there. Anyway, so when they go on one of the rides, Belly and Jer hold hands, and they do have a moment, and even Taylor's like, that's interesting, but Belly's acting like it's nothing, and to be fair to her, she can sometimes be a little bit clueless about how she feels. Like, she's reconnecting with her best friend Jer, but obviously there's more feelings there, and I just don't think she realizes it yet. When the kids get back from their fun day out, they see that Aunt Julia has moved everything out of that house. Like, this is diabolical. By the way, before they had gone out, Stephen had helped them sabotage the open house by messing with the aircon so that the open house would be cancelled, and it was, but it seems like the antics only resulted in a postponement, and Aunt Julia still has every intention of going through with the sale, sooner rather than later as well. In episode 5, Aunt Julia's like, you know, boys, your mom could have told you about what was going to happen, and even her kid, Sky, is like, really, Mom? I really don't care about these two new characters either way. Anyway, there's no place for anyone to sleep now because the house has been stripped bare. Cam Cameron to the rescue, I guess. Like, he uses his mom's access code to get into the country club to sleep for the night. It was actually originally Jer's plan, but his access card didn't work, so yeah. So Jer is still all in his feelings about seeing Conrad and Belly together, and they're not together. It's just that right now she's convincing him, like, trying to comfort him, telling him that, you know, the fight for the house is not over. Jer admits that he knows that there's this force that pulls Conrad and Belly together, and how could he have not seen it all this time? But at the same time, he's upset because Conrad ignored Belly for years, and now he just gets to show up and he's the one that she chooses. But he knows that he needs to make peace with that and move on. We do get a memory of Conrad asking Jer for his blessing, kinda. At the time, like, Conrad had said he was so in love with Belly that it hurt, and they just don't want to hurt Jer. And also at the time, Jer was like, well, you do you, because you do what you want to do anyway, so go ahead. It wasn't like he was angry or anything, but you could see that he knew that he had no choice. Like, what is he going to do? Like, tell them not to be together? He could see that his brother was really in love with Belly, and obviously she felt the same. So in the present, the kids are all kind of split up around the country club, finding things to eat and places to crash. Jer tells himself that it'll always be Conrad and not him. He's also trying to move on, but Belly also wants to hang out with him and be friends. She tells him that she'd rather hang out with him. So they go to the theatre room, they mess about for a bit, and then they have some laughs. There's this moment where they're about to kiss and we get his internal monologue. Moments like these, he really feels like he could be the one. I honestly really liked that the story shifted to his perspective for a bit. It felt fresh, and Jer is really likable this season. So after this almost kiss, there's some breath clearing and shifty movements as though they're trying to pretend that that never happened or that it never affected them. You two are so obvious. Stephen and Taylor, though, are also doing whatever, and then he mentions the Deb's ball. She makes fun of it because she pretty much thinks that it's a rich girl pageant. But he tells her, you know what, I actually think you would like it. And then he starts this kind of role-playing game where he wears a tux and he tells her that she's beautiful and he asks her to dance. And at first she's like, this is really corny. But eventually she reluctantly plays along and they have this really cute moment while they dance, which is really sweet. And, Taylor's a bit of a cynic and her boyfriend is, kind of he's like a rapper, and I can imagine these are corny, heartfelt moments, even though she thinks they're corny. Like, she thinks she's too cool for it, but she's still a teenage girl, it's still romantic and she likes it. Although, nothing happens. Conrad and Jer consider suing their dad so that they can access their trusts. That also ends up being a dead end. So we see a memory of a family dinner when Susanna was still alive. It's Thanksgiving, and Conrad and Belly are still properly together at this point. Poor Jer. So later he tells Conrad that he should really give him the heads up when he and Belly are coming over because he just wants to keep his distance and he doesn't want to be around that. In the present, Belly and Taylor have a talk and she tells Taylor that she senses a vibe between her and Stephen. Taylor's like, no, Stephen really hurt me last year and that doesn't just go away. She says that she senses something between Belly and Jer. There's definitely something going on. Belly surprisingly admits it, but she says that she knows that she hurt Jeremiah last season. So, this is such a boring episode. Where's the story? I mean, apart from the memory scenes, we're just watching a bunch of people hang out, which is why I feel like skipping a lot of it. But yeah, we'll make it. So cousin Sky dares Belly to kiss Jer, and Jer's like, aren't we too old for this? Later, Belly. She's really upset that Jer didn't want to kiss her. She's like, do I have BO or something? Like, why wouldn't you kiss me? Excuse me, Belly. Are you kidding? Anyway, Jeremiah is all of us when he's like, Belly, just stop. Still, Jer decides later on that there is some hope for him and Belly after all. She's seeking him out and she's wanting to be close in a way that feels like more than friends. So at the end of the episode, there's nothing left that they can do. A buyer has made an offer on the house and she's accepted. In episode 6, Aunt Julia asks the boys to hand over the keys. It's done. Oh, if I were them, I would just burn this house to the ground. Cousin Sky tells their mom, Aunt Julia, that what she's doing is pretty heinous. And she's doing it to confirm that she, Aunt Julia, was an outsider and that she didn't belong in the family. She's kind of doing it, because of her own ego and her own insecurities a little bit. Anyway, Aunt Julia refuses to back down and she drives back to Boston alone, leaving Cousin Sky with the rest of the kids. Belly decides that they need to throw a party because they can't just let things end this way. And later, Belly and Jer have a moment in the pool. They're about to hold hands when Taylor comes out telling her that they have to go on a supply run, and all three of them end up going. They have a nice time together, but Conrad is noticing some vibes between Belly and Jer. Then we have to spend the rest of the day going shopping for party supplies. It's so silly and contrived and boring, but Belly does tell Conrad that she wants to talk about the elephant in the room, that she wants to apologize for what happened at Susanna's funeral. She admits that it's not like they were together anymore, so, the fact that Aubrey or Audrey was comforting him, she had no right to fly off the handle like that. Conrad tells Belly that, he was just having a panic attack and Aubrey was the one who found him. He never sought her out and there wasn't anything going on there. Their little moments are interrupted by Jer, of course. Wash, rinse, repeat. Later, the party is in full swing and Belly is in roller skates and she almost falls over, but Bear catches her. She falls into his arms, basically, and he whispers to her, all seductive, you don't need to hurt yourself to get my attention. Cam Cameron is DJing the party because of course he is. And there's obviously something going on between him and Cousin Sky. They flirt a little bit, I think. And then, later on they kiss. By the way, did anyone feel like the character of Cousin Sky, the way that they wrote their mannerisms, their character was just kind of really annoying? I don't know, they irked me for some reason. But Cam obviously likes them, so that's all that matters. Taylor and Steven do this dance that the girls used to do when they were younger, and they kind of used to annoy Steven and Laurel with it, but Steven knows all the moves, and so they're doing it together at the party, and it's really nice to see Taylor just have fun like a teenager with the guy. These two are really cute. Eventually Steven says to her, okay, you know what, you win. Like, I admit I have feelings for you. She thinks that he's joking at first, but he's like, you were my sister's annoying best friend or whatever, but you know, when you're not around, like now suddenly I miss you and you're my favorite person. Just then, Milo, Taylor's boyfriend, walks in. So about Steven and Taylor, they kind of stole the show a little bit this season. I never really liked Taylor much in season 1. I felt like she was a frenemy. She had nothing really in common with Belly. I didn't get that friendship. And I didn't really care about Steven. You know, he was just Belly's older brother. But it's nice to root for two people who have since matured and have been given a little bit more story beyond, you know, the friend and the brother. Anyway, I never thought that I'd be invested in them, but I really hope that they make it. So Belly and Jer are sitting off to the side and they're about to kiss when a fight breaks up between Milo and Steven. It ends up being a whole lot of nothing. There's some stuff with the house again, some drama, and Jer and Conrad fight again. Belly takes a bottle of booze and she heads off to the beach because she's upset because of this latest fight, and the reality of losing the house is really starting to set in now. Anyway, she's on the beach stumbling and Conrad comes and he carries her out of the water. He's like, I'm not leaving you here, Belly, you're drunk. And she's like, well, you left me anyway. You already left. That's what she says. She says that if she knew how he really felt about her, she would have fought for them. Kind of wish at this point Conrad would have said, you know, I still feel this way about you. Let's fight for this now. But, you know, that would be too easy. Oh my goodness. Then Steven at the party goes and sits next to Taylor and he apologizes for this whole fight with Milo. And then he goes, about what I said earlier. And she finishes the sentence and she says, you take it all back? And he asks, do you want me to? He's like, you have to say what you want, Taylor, but in a gentle way. And also, by the way, finally they play Taylor Swift's Snow on the Beach and Taylor reaches over and they kiss. This was like a really cute little slow burn secondary storyline. I love it. Belly goes into the house and there's Jer, like a beacon in the crowd waiting for her, and he waits for her to walk over to him, but she turns and she looks at Conrad, who is kind of walking away. By the time she turns back to look at Jer, he also walks away. So yeah, she goes upstairs crying. She calls Laurel and she tells Laurel to please come and fix everything because everything's wrong, basically, and that they're losing the house. In episode 7, Laurel comes to the house the next morning and she is really angry because, you know, they trashed the place, basically. Belly thinks that her mom has hated her since that outburst at Susanna's funeral, and she tells her mom, Susanna would be so disappointed that you've abandoned her boys, and Laurel slaps Belly across the face. I mean, it's not a hard slap, but still, it's across the face. It's pretty uncalled for. So Belly goes out onto the beach and Jer goes to sit with her. And she tells him, you know, whatever you thought you saw with Conrad last night, you're wrong. There's nothing left between me and Conrad. And Jeremiah rightly says, well, there's always going to be something between them. Steven even tells his mom that he knows that he and Belly messed up, but, you know, the second that the boys needed her, Belly was there. Laurel apologizes to Belly then, and I know now's not the time, but she's looking really pretty here, Laurel, I mean. So mother and daughter both forgive each other, and they both cry about Susanna's loss together. Laurel also apologizes to the rest of the kids. She says that she'll talk to Aunt Julia, and hopefully she can fix things, although she knows that it might be too late. Taylor tells Belly that she wants to make sure that Belly is also looking after her own heart, and not just the boys. She leaves then because she thinks that this is a family matter and they all need to be together. She and Steven are also really cute together. When she asks Steven for a lift to the bus, like Steven's like, the bus? Yeah, you can take my car, which is something that Steven never does. So yeah, like he likes her. Laurel talks to Julia and Julia reveals that Susanna had written her a letter before her death, like hoping that Julia would do the right thing, you know, and keep the house in the family. After some emotions, Julia says that she's decided to pull out of the sale. Like, after a season's worth of antics, and that's it, like, she's just convinced, like, get out of here. But I guess it's fine because the story was kind of pushed to its limits anyway. So Laurel goes to talk to the boy's dad to convince him to let the boys buy the house from Julia. Connie and Belly talk, and he says that he thought that he was doing right by Belly by ending things the way that he did. He hopes that she doesn't regret their night together, and if he could go back, he would do things differently. They eventually settle on being friends. The dad gets to a house, drama, blah, blah, blah. He says eventually, I'm going to sell the Boston house so you boys will be able to buy this house, so that we can afford to buy this house, basically. The boys talk out on the beach, and their talk is a really good one. Jared says that he's tired of being, the guy who's smiling all the time. This kind of reminded me of Max in season 3 of Ginny and Georgia, where, she felt like she always had to be the good, happy kid because Marcus was always really struggling, and she didn't want to stress her parents out even more. There was also this one point where, like in one of the memories, Jer is taking care of all the bills. Susanna's like medical bills and like some kind of accounting. So yeah, he was doing a lot. And Conrad says like, you don't have to be that person. You need to open up about your feelings, and Jer knows that. And Conrad also realizes that he needs to pay more attention. So the boys also make up with their dad, and Belly, Jer, and Steven stay one more night at the house to help Conrad study for his final. Belly says that this is the last thing that she's going to do for Conrad, and then she'll let him go. Yeah, okay, Belly. So they pull an all-nighter, with Belly being the cheerleader, and later she and Conrad are talking outside, and she's about to tell him that she has feelings for Jeremiah, but she doesn't get to finish her sentence because he's already fallen asleep. Conrad and Steven have a talk, and he asks Conrad if he's going to tell Belly how he feels about her. Steven, by the way, is firmly team Conrad, and Taylor is team Belly and Jer, because remember, Conrad really hurt Belly, and that's something that Taylor struggles to move past. This does actually cause quite a bit of friction between Steven and Taylor, but they're fine in the end. So the gang agrees to meet back at the house on the 4th of July, and they do one last belly flop, and they hang around in the pool, and then they leave. Whose Range Rover is this? Like, who's going to pay for maintenance in the house? Taxes? I'm guessing the sale of the Boston house is going to cover everything. Rich people stuff, I guess. So they drop Conrad off at his exam, and Belly and Jer take a tour of Finch College. This is where Belly might go next year. I think either Jeremiah is there already, or he's going to be going there as well. They would basically go to uni together. There's definitely heavy vibes between them, and Belly is thirsting for Jer, but he's still pretty hesitant about her. I mean, who wouldn't be? We all know that she's not really over Conrad. She's maybe just kind of over him for now. And I don't know, have you guys ever loved somebody so much like Jared that you'd only have a part of them? Like, may that love never find me, please. So Belly asks Jeremiah if he'll ever give her a second chance, and he says that if he ever falls for her like that again and she changes her mind like last time, he couldn't take that. And she says that she wouldn't do that. Things are different now. She's tired of dreaming of somebody. She wants something real. She wants him. They finally kiss, and it's a really good kiss, but they're interrupted by Conrad. So quick word about the whole Conrad is who I dreamt of being with, but I want reality now. I know what she's trying to say, but no person wants to hear that from a prospective partner. You kind of want to hear that you're the dream too. But yeah, I get that Belly has made Conrad out to be this perfect romantic boyfriend, and she's still kind of in her childish crush a little bit, and she needs to grow up and realize, that he's flawed, and they won't just sail off into the sunset together. But still, she does not romanticize Jeremiah the way she does Conrad. These two are just, friends who love each other. But is she deeply in love with him, and could she ever be? I don't know. Like, I'm not convinced. I guess we'll see, though. They are really cute together, though. Anyway, in episode 8, which is the final episode of season 2, Conrad gets into Stanford. He calls Steven all excited, and he's about to tell Belly that he's still in love with her, but he walks in on Belly and Jer kissing. He runs off. Belly runs after him, and he's like, oh, so you're with Jeremiah now? She's like, Conrad, this isn't about you. And he's like, well, then go, because Jer wants you and I don't anymore. Anyway, the brothers are on the outs again because of Belly and Jer. They're kind of civil enough to drive home together. It's super awkward. And Conrad, because he's really hurt, starts talking and letting all of Belly's mess out to air in the car. He's hurt, obviously, but he's kind of having a little bit of fun being petty about it all. He asks who's the better kisser, him or Jer. I mean, Conrad's not wrong. So they get stuck in a rainstorm, the three of them, because obviously. The highway gets shut down because obviously, so they have to stay in a hotel for the evening, and there's only one bed because obviously. Anyway, this is cringe, but I happen to love a cliche, so I'm fine with this. I don't hate it. So Jer and Belly go ahead to the room, and she tells him that this is for real, and he tells her that he's just waiting for the other shoe to drop when it comes to her. He says that Conrad and Belly really need to talk, and if she still feels the same about Jeremiah after she realizes that Conrad still wants her, then, he's all hers. I think she's still going to be Conrad's regardless, kind of in a way, but it's good for Jared to look out for himself. Jared tells Conrad that he's acting like a dick to hide that he's hurting, and he correctly guesses that Conrad, is still in love with Belly. Conrad says that Belly chose Jeremiah, but Jared says it doesn't feel like it. He feels like she might have because she doesn't know that she still has a chance with Conrad. Jer says that if Belly picks him, Conrad, he will let her go and he won't get in the way of them again. He just wants Belly to be happy. As they lay awake at night, Conrad tells Belly that he didn't mean what he said to her earlier about not wanting her anymore. He still wants her, and she doesn't have to say anything now. He just wants her to know that. So yeah, this is him letting her know that they can still be together. He wants this. She doesn't say anything to him. Milo, in a very side story, makes a diss track about Steven, and that's when his music really pops and goes viral. And Steven is pretty upset about it because it kind of makes him look a little bit like a loser, which he's not. And things aren't really going very well with Taylor because they went on a date and they kind of left things on like a bad note. The next morning, Belly wakes up and she goes looking for Jer, and he thinks that she's about to break things off, but nope, she's all in, she says. They kiss and it's really passionate and cute, actually. Aww. And yeah, I mean, I really want to be team Belly and Jer, and I guess I am for now since they are together. But you know, Belly and Conrad are inevitable, or as they say, what is it that Conrad says? They're infinite. But for now, Belly has moved on, and you know, I'm into this. I don't mind. Conrad tells the couple that they're good, pretty much. They can be friends, and Belly says that she's evicting Conrad from her heart. And when he says goodbye to them, oh my goodness, you should see Conrad. Like, my heart broke for him here. I think I might have cried. He tries to keep it together, but you see that he's losing it. It's like his heart physically hurts from it. Taylor and Steven talk, and she says that she really cares a lot about him. And this is new and it's difficult for her because she's not used to being the one in relationship who really cares. And this scares her. She's always liked Steven, even after, you know, they kissed and he kind of ignored her. Like, she was still there, like, liking him. And yeah, she's scared of what happens when he goes away to uni. He assures her that he won't hurt her. And we get our second makeout on a car bonnet for this season. Belly and Jer hold hands and they drive back home, and he tells her this is something that he's wanted to do for such a long time. Like, I feel like I want to kind of relax and, you know, enjoy this pairing for what it is, but I feel like I can't really get invested with the two of them, even though they're so adorable together. Anyway, Belly decides to join volleyball camp. She apologizes to her coach for her behavior last season. You know, she let down her team, but her team also backs her up, willing to give her a second chance. She says that she gave up on the team because she actually gave up on herself, and she would like a second chance to make things right. Eventually, she is invited onto the volleyball team. They play a game, and Jer is there in the stands cheering her on. And in the end, we see Conrad setting up the summer house and cousins again. And of course, he gives extra attention to a little teddy bear in Belly's room. And it was a teddy bear that she'd won at a fair when they were like a lot younger, a long time ago. So it kind of means something to him. And so yeah, that is the end of season 2. Thank you for watching.